Oh. Holy mind frame. I am suffering from goddamn boredom. Let's check our messages.
Following total atomic annihilation, it may fall to you to save the great nation. That's why Voltech have made extra preparation and are proud to present to you a special education. Regarding aptitude, you are an absolutely unique amalgamation of attributes. Now it's time to find out in which you excel. What makes you SPECIAL? You're special, you're special, you're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. Strength! Supplies are sparse, so on seeing something sweet, be sure to scavenge your staff. The stronger you are, the smaller the stack of scrap storage and snacks that you can haul on your back. But do be sure to stay on track of the numbers, or a savage could suddenly strike as you're over encumbered. And should your special self have such a regrettable incident, you better get swinging any suitable weapon or implement. Perception! Post-nuclear places are pretty pre-arranged to put you through your paces. Pinpoint the parts of predators that plan to prey with a Voltec-assisted targeting system. Hooray! You may need to pickpocket, pinching for your own protection, practicing your pilfering, purloining to perfection. If your preferential predilection's petty theft of people's possessions, you'll be protected by perception. You're special. Hey! You're special. You're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. Endurance! Epidemics are endemic everywhere. Infection, amputation, radiation, never rare. End the negative effects. Refresh your energy by eating everything, even extra limbs and enemies. Your belly's not ever empty. There's endless entrees. Extend the length of time you exercise. Eons, days. Escape encounters with louds and rowdy hooligans. Or environments ensure you'll eventually be food again. Charisma! Communists conquered this clean continent, and concomitantly, corruption was the consequence. As such, you must be confident and cognizant of compliments, confirming that commercially you're consummately competent. Convert companions to confidants, convincing them to change your cuddly toy for cutlery and condiments. Swallow down countless cups of cocktails, and charm your way from harm, charm combat curtail. You're special, you're special, you're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. Well, intelligence is idiocy inverted. Innate instinct, take information and interpret it. The inner intuition and initiative to implement inventive ideas, to be inquisitive. It is indicative of ingrained imagination, to take an inspiration and create an innovation. Ensure against injury through investigation, because ignorance induces incapacitation. Agility! After all the aggro, antagonists are all too available. There's no ASBOs. Accelerate your acts of accurate aim and have any angry adversaries aptly aflame. Avoid adverse assaults from automatics. Avert or repel their action with acrobatics. Agility! Amazing adaptability! Awesome! What an absolutely ace ability! You're special. You're special. You're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. Well, luck! The lady that lowers the likelihood of life's lotto's lost for the lazy. When you like it with lies that are larger than life, at least you'll have to leave the large laugh for the life. The life, the lambs, less than lavish and lovely, but when looking for loot, you'll locate lots of luxury. Loads of little lowlifes leering at your luggage, and lone lad is liable to let them learn what luck is. Congratulations, you passed the test, yes! From everyone at Voltec, splendid work on your success. Give yourself a pat on the back and maybe shake hands, then perambulate into the haze of the wasteland. War never changes. Look at the history books, torn up pages. Cause when the dust settles after all-out war, you'll be glad we taught you what to deal with Fallout 4. You're special, you're special, you're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. That's you! You're special, you're special. Yes, you! You're special. Oh, so special! SPECIAL spells out that you're quite swell. Good luck out there.
Let's listen to the Shitbox music player. Oh. Hell yeah. The Chad podcast is on. Goddamn. Finally. I was losing my damn mind.
I'm Kenneth VIGUE, and before episode 3 drops this weekend, I have a bit of a mini bonus episode for you, and also some news to follow. The next episode was delayed a week as I've been hard at work getting word out about the show, and also holding open auditions for voice talent. One of the best Fallout 76 podcasts out there is the Vault Boys West Virginia, who explore the lore, locations, and their experiences with the game through the perspective of people born and bred in Appalachia. They heard the first episode of this podcast and were kind enough to have me on the show to talk about this podcast and also re-air episode 1 for their listeners. Many of you have expressed interest in comments and messages to me about the origins of this show. So here to get some of that backstory is the Vault Boys, West Virginia.
Following total atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we here at Vault Boys WV will take you on an oral tour of the beautiful state of West Virginia. There's no other place to be better prepared for the impending fallout. Now we go live to our team of experts.
Hello, dwellers. This is Dave. I'm curious what to call the listeners of the podcast. I'll have to talk to Austin next week and figure that out. Speaking of which, we'll have a regular episode for you next week following D3 with all of our reactions and thoughts and exciting news. For this week, I have prepared a little special, I suppose, aperitif for the listeners here. There's this great audio drama podcast thing that came up on my news feed, and this guy named Ken contacted me and wanted to see what I thought, and I wanted to bring him on the podcast and interview him a little bit and play the episode. So with that, let's introduce Ken.
My name is Kenneth Figue. I am both the author and the narrator for the podcast. I also, of all things, own a marketing firm, which is my real life adulting job. I've done creative writing for a long time, ever since high school, but until Fallout 76 came around, and I kind of started writing again on a whim. I hadn't written anything personally, creatively, for probably a good decade now. I've written a few things, mostly ghost-written some books for people that we've worked with in marketing, but nothing like this before, ever.
So would you say that it automatically translated into the podcast or audio drama, or was it more just, I'm going to sit down and write some stuff and see if there's a story there?
No, it just kind of happened. We were playing Fallout 76 one night and had quite a few beverages, and were in the high school up in Grafton. And we were in there. We started reminiscing about high school as we were killing things and our experiences there. And I remembered this guy from high school that was your typical jock, bully, pain in the butt, that was named Chad. And then the 4 other people in the group all had a Chad of some fashion in their lives. Like, one was just a drunken uncle. Another one was a boss who was kind of a washed up high school jock that didn't really go anywhere. And I thought it would be kind of funny to write these short journal entries about someone who was dealing with a Chad that they had grown up with, and now they're stepping out of the vault into this open world. And unlike high school, where when it's over, you kind of walk out that door, and aside from seeing them in the newspaper or maybe running into them again at a high school reunion, you really don't see that person ever again. In this world, I wondered what it would be like to have that person just kind of doggedly pursue you and never quite finish making your life miserable. So I wrote just a few short paragraphs that I shared in some of the Fallout 76 groups that went unexpectedly viral. So as long as people were enjoying them, I started writing more and ended up with 23 of them in all. A lot of them, what made them work was the visual to go along with the writing, and some of the glitches and weirdness in the game made for the best fodder for writing, whether it was scorched heads kind of clipping to the front of your body in a kind of hilarious way,
right.
Or people exiting power armor but being stretched out, looking like a living Wendigo with extended limbs.
I remember discovering that particular glitch. That was quite
they're hilarious when you actually just sit back and appreciate it for what it is. People had started suggesting that they should be turned into a book or a podcast or something like that. So eventually enough people appreciated them that I thought, what the hell, I would give it a go. And so it came to be.
So was this your first time playing a Fallout game, or have you gotten into the series before this one?
Oh, no. I started with Fallout 3. I wish I could be that person that said I started out with Fallout 1, but way back in the day. But no, I started with Fallout 3, which I think a lot of people did. And up until that point, I mean, I'd been playing games my entire life, but that first moment when I stepped out of the vault and the world opened up all around you was a really powerful, goosebumpy moment. I loved the lore and the alternative universe, and the whole 1950s retro futurism really spoke to me. And I fell in love with that game and moved on to 76 and then Fallout 4 and now to Fallout 76.
So for this particular project, other than the game itself and of course the titular antagonist of it, what were some of the inspirations behind the stories that you've already told?
It doesn't come from any one place. One of the things that I guess has become an asset working with people in marketing is I have almost a high, for lack of a better word, like an empathic ability. So I can put myself into someone's shoes or someone's head and can come up with a story based on who they are, what makes them tick, what their likes or dislikes are, and what makes them a person. It helps with like branding and identity, where someone will come to me and they're trying to make a product or tell a story, and they forget that people don't really connect with a thing. They connect with things that they can connect to. They can feel good about something or can relate it to something personal in their life. So I think a lot of the stories about what happens to this person just come from a place of following him out into the world and going from this kind of optimist that he starts out as from day one and becomes someone completely different by the time we get to the end of the season, where you kind of realize that you become what you hate. And along the way, there's a lot of dark humor, and he has a very sarcastic, you've got to be kidding me way of looking at what happens to him. He's kind of a pathetic hero in a way, in that he never quite gets a break throughout the entire series.
So what do you hope to achieve writing these episodes, doing this stuff? Is this, do you have any goals for this hobby? I know that you have said before to me that more in that hobby world, but what are your goals right now with it?
I'd like for people just to appreciate it, or even to just check it out, listen, and laugh. To me, that's the most important thing. Right. I think everything is so serious, especially I think the older that you get, you lose this kind of laughable approach to life or situations and start to look at everything as serious or a threat, or, you shouldn't be laughing at that. No, you should be. If you can't, then what's the point? It would be great to just have people enjoy this for what it is. And if anything, maybe look at the Fallout experience as in the way that I do. When the game launched, it obviously had some challenges from a launch standpoint. But the group that I ended up finding inside the game was comprised of now friends from all over the world. And as we went on adventures together and hung out and drank and laughed and cried and talked about our lives, you build some amazing connections, which is the first experience I've ever had in a game like this. I've never played an online multiplayer game before, So being able to talk and hang with people has been amazing. I wanted people to be able to look at this game maybe through the eyes of the character and being able to look at it for the subtleties in the game, that when you're so focused on grinding at White Springs or doing your 200th Queen run, that you look for some of the Easter eggs or the backstory that isn't kind of spoon-fed to you in the way that it was delivered previously. If you look at some of the detail that they've put in the holotapes or the notes and follow that around like breadcrumbs, there's actually some really amazing mini stories in the game and Easter eggs that you can really appreciate. There's one thing that just occurred to me. You can kind of weave back in. I think a lot of where this comes from and the sound came from my grandmother, of all things. When I was little, she used to take me to the library every weekend, like clockwork. And I hang out in the children's room up until I was 12, when it was this big old Victorian building and the adult rooms were upstairs. So one weekend I just got bold and I wandered up this gigantic staircase, and upstairs in the adult section, there was this kind of open amphitheater feel with like 3 layers of balconies, and it had these amazing wrought iron staircases. So I tramped up one and found the darkest corner of the entire building. And in there, it was just floor to ceiling with dusty old records. And I'd never seen one before. So I took a look through some of them and saw one that was an audio drama, and it was called Lights Out, Murder Castle. And checked it out of the library and played it on my dad's record player at home. And I'd never heard anything like it. I think back then, before TV, the writers and producers of audio drama back then had a mastery of creating storytelling through atmospheric sound, where you can almost see a ghost coming at you down a hallway or see blood pooling on the carpet from someone who's being murdered. They did that through sound alone, and it was kind of left up to your imagination. So I think a lot of the feel of this, it was important to me to kind of create the kind of environment that you could picture what was going on and feel the space that the character was sitting in, even in using directional sound to kind of position where he would be in relation to the recording device that is capturing all of this on. And there are some subtle things that I did to take you from the tape to live action, where you kind of slowly drift out of that kind of recorded sound into being in the actual space and hearing, birds singing or water flowing or something like that.
I have listened to both the episodes that are out now of your podcast, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great. It's so it feels like it feels incredibly professional. I was listening to it and I was thinking, this guy should make a portfolio, because this guy is going places in like the voice acting and writing world. I thought to myself, I was like, wow, this is something really special. So where can people find your podcast at? Fallout76podcast.com
is the main website, but now it's up on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, pretty much everywhere podcasts are listed. Before we tune out, I wanted to also share some exciting news. After holding open auditions with Fallout fan groups, we now have an entire cast of voice actors and actresses who will be bringing to life this show, including Alexander Luthor, a real-world actor who will be voicing Chad. When you hear him speak, he's a person you will love to hate. As of this airing, Episode 3 is almost complete, with 2 new characters appearing. One is an old friend, the other a new foe. And with that news, I'll see you in the wasteland.
always watching you.
Thank you.
I never in a million years thought that I would ever have to utilize a Ronald McDonald House. It meant the world that I was able to stay so close to her, and she was never alone. Thank you from the Chepkauskas family.
That Chad podcast is so hot right now. That Chad. So hot.